welcome back to another episode of Slice of Life. Project Arisha once used to be, again, a project, an on-road project. Used to be a self-therapeutic psychiatric multimedia project, and also self-improvement process for a variety of reasons, and for the community. And now it's become evolved and grown into something that's much more extensive, manifestation, personification of the self, and so on and so forth, involving a variety of series, modalities, analogies, concepts, ideas, series, and so on and so forth. Again, typically 7 a.m., maybe 6:45 a.m. in the morning uploads, Eastern Standard Time, EST, and in a variety of formats, whether it's just episodes or podcasts or videos or articles and so on and so forth. Okay, bloodied up. And of the variety of series, in this case, this episode here that you're tuning into right now is going to be a Friday upload. And I think at this point, it's hard to say what will happen in the future, because by the time this one gets uploaded, it'll be like 3-4 months down the road. That's kind of good. That's good. I don't want things to be always in sync. It's hard to tell whether or not there'll be multiple uploads a week, maybe just 2 or 3, maybe 5, maybe just 1. I don't know. I'm not sticking to. All I know is that there's going to be at least one single upload every single week, and that consistent one is going to be the Friday. Research, informational, also storytelling, narration, some stories, and some jokes, a little bit of banter. It's a mishmash of many different things. Okay, it's life, slice of life, right? That's where the concept kind of like comes from, slice of life, or slice of real life, right? So we do keep things kind of grounded, and we don't shy away from certain topics that are maybe a little bit taboo at times. All right. So with that further ado, the previous episode that I produced was related to medicine and healthcare. I decided to change it up. So I didn't want to cover 2 productions back to back. I didn't want to put 2 episodes back to back within preceding weeks related to healthcare. So I'm just going to cover something related more to other, maybe finance, real estate and property. I don't cover this topic very often. But this was something that was brought up to me. Again, I'm in touch with a lot of people, and again, privacy, confidentiality, there's never any names mentioned or anything like that. At best, it would be like some kind of arbitrary random initial, right? Because again, this is just keeping in line with standard practices, not just professionally, but just personally. It's something that I think is important to me personally, as like personal ethics, is like just keeping a lot of things private that are not to be disclosed. But there was a conversation, long story short, with a mutual friend, and nothing mentioned there, but long story short, aside from that, it's just the topic, and I'll bring it up, is real estate. So we're going to talk a little bit in this episode. I think the main point is going to be talking about townhouses, condos, property, and there's going to be a variety of other things that are going to be surrounding like finance as well, that we're going to be covering this episode. And then the episode coming up next week after this one is going to be jumping back into like medicine, healthcare, and so on and so forth. So just kind of mix things up a little bit, right? So what you see here first isn't really related to, it's not related to property at all. It's a cute dog. It's actually just Amazon here. So what this is supposed to be is actually, it's supposed to be an invoice. So I made a purchase, and I have a balcony, and around my area, I guess this is property related, there's a lot of fucking pigeons, and they always go around like shitting on people's balconies. And I had a contractor hired about like a year ago, and it was great. It paid off in dividends. I don't have to worry about pigeons like shitting on my fucking balcony. But I didn't know I'd be talking about this episode, but whatever. So yeah, I bought like some reflectors, because what ended up happening is that even though they can't enter my balcony, some of them still get close enough that they start to like leave feathers. And actually, I think there's like a neighbor of mine, I'm not sure, it's up north, like I'm not north, like above, directly above or diagonally above, like some floor or whatever, or maybe to the side, to the left, up, I don't know. Just one of my neighbors apparently has a big pigeon problem on their balconies, because they keep flying there's like feathers dropping down, and I don't know why. So maybe it's because they have plants, maybe it's because they have furniture, but I understand that most people won't have netting, so that's understandable because it is like we're leasing and renting. So typically, unless you do a really good job with the contractors, netting is not something that you can usually do too often because of all the implications. So for example, I took a caulking gun, caulking gun like Home Depot, Home Hardware, and I used like sealant adhesive to sort of seal all the nuts and bolts around all the 2-3 inch bolts that dig into the brick wall, just to make sure that no moisture content enters inside, because I want to do my part as a tenant responsibly to make sure that the netting doesn't damage the integrity or the structure of like the property. So I take these extra steps. I know most people won't. As a result, that's why it's been functional. So over the winter, no snow or ice or moisture enters through the cracks of the screws, because I have sealed it with a water resistant or waterproof adhesive. That being said, pigeons still get too close in comfort, and they leave a bit of debris. And so what I did is I went to Amazon and I wanted to purchase some deflectors, and so there's going to be some new installations over the next couple of weeks. I have another contractor coming in this year, so I'm not sure when, but I'm coordinating it with him. He's someone I've actually worked with before as a client, and he's helped me to do some cleaning. So it's not installation, but cleaning. And so long story short, once that's done, once again, no names mentioned or anything like that, right? Although this would probably be beneficial for him if it were to be, but I'm not gonna do it anyways, because it's like business, like it's like marketing is business, or like just kind of shout out. I don't want to do anything like that without permission, so I don't do it. So with that being said, once that's done, the cleaning is done, I'm going to probably install some like swirling, like shiny things, reflectors. And what's that going to do is basically prevent more like pigeons from showing up and stuff like that. Anyways, so what we have here, Amazon.ca, sorry something went wrong, please go back, try again, go to Amazon's homepage. Nous sommes désolés, une erreur s'est produite. Veuillez s'il vous plaît retourner sur la page précédente, vous accédez à la page d'accueil de Amazon.ca. That's my just butchering my French. I have to get back into that, actually. That's one of the languages that I've actually kind of dropped the ball with. Well, not quite, honestly. It's just, when I'm speaking French nowadays, it's kind of choppy. It's not as fluent as I used to be. But like what? Well, I'm just gonna say it. It's bilingual. We're in Canada, so. Anyways, needless to say, that's just a little like error 404 on Amazon there. So that's all that is. Let's move on to something else that's related to like finance and property. So we're gonna breeze through this. This is not terribly important to me because it's important. It's important. That being said, it's not something that I need to cover in much depth, because it's just basically one of these names here, Wellwise, Holt Renfrew, Medi System, Whittington, Choice Properties, PC Financial, Weston. One of these is basically the subsidiaries of where I work. Long story short, it's major retail, but it also has it's grown to the point where it's purchased other companies, right, on the stock market and stuff like that. And so we have lots of subsidiaries, and in clothing, in not just food and grocery, but also in real estate. Once again, just kind of trying to tie things together here, right? So there's more connections. And you can see that Choice Properties down there is like real estate. But needless to say, this page is only open because, as I mentioned in the past episode, everything kind of crashed. Life got in the way. We had a lot of stuff going on. I couldn't get through all the content. The project became a side thing. I was going out. There's already so much going on, to the point that now the project is almost like a side thing. It's something that I don't do very often anymore, and it's something that I also don't really need to do, because it's like I already get enough. I might almost get a little bit too much interaction, too much activities, too much social interaction, too much conversations on a daily basis, that there's no need for like this kind of like supplement. But it's something, now it's more like a hobby, which is good. That's the way we want it to be. Okay, going further. All right, so basically, long story short, this is like a login page, right? You log into your employee dashboard or whatever, so you can download your pay stubs or check in, where your schedule or whatever. That's all this is. And it was open because, again, got 2 browsers, laptop crashed, computer crashed, things accumulated, and then I had a second tab open because I didn't want to use the original one, which has like thousands of tabs open that I remember saving for this project. As a result, I used a second browser when the first one was closed, and then suddenly they both opened by accident. So we're just kind of breeze through this. Okay, so that's all this is. It's just work-related stuff. On that note, since we covered invoice, right? So like Amazon invoice, whatever, for that like purchase. So this one is God, my hair's a fucking mess. So this is a sorry, it's not an invoice. So we covered the invoice. This is a pay stub. This is a pay stub for and you can see it's like blotted out because I put a graphic there. The graphic is there for a reason. Obviously, I don't want to show the name of the file because it may have confidential information. Once again, just kind of like blotting that out. So what we have here is hold on a second, is the pay stub, right? So we downloaded a pay stub basically every 1 or 2 weeks or whatever. We download a pay stub, and then what you do is like kind of like save that onto cloud drive, onto my hard drive or whatever, and sync it up, and then like send it, upload it to whatever tax purposes, maybe to a social service that you're connected to, or an agency with the government, do whatever you need to do with pay stub. So I keep a collection of pay stubs every here and there. So that's all that is. Again, downloaded from, that's why there's 2 tabs you open related to work, because I logged in to get my pay stubs. So next. All right, so I think I can remove the graphic now. So as I mentioned, right, we're going to talk about property and real estate. And honestly, I like the fact that, to be honest, I've caught wind of the fact that it's kind of obvious, all right, that people have been discussing like some of the things that I talk about in my local neighborhood, because these walls are fucking paper thin. Some people can hear what I'm saying, and some people, actually take it with the good grace that they actually find it useful. Some people kind of find it like hilarious and shit like that, and then it's a little bit annoying. But then there are also people who kind of like vibe with that, and they actually I find like the conversations kind of pop up in a daily life because it kind of gets brought to the forefront, and that's important because like at the end of the day, what is the purpose? One of the many purposes of this kind of podcast and episode and this project is to kind of like help people get by, especially during times like this, right, where economic downturn, rough political times and stuff like that. It's been helpful to kind of like, there are people who actually can learn from this. For example, who I would say I've had certain experiences where I've seen that there are people who actually appreciated that, and then were able to kind of like see their own family members take away something from even just like hearing or by second degree hearsay. The fact that these topics are being brought to light is very helpful, because at some point it wasn't being focused on enough. There wasn't enough spotlight on the topics of like functional parts of like society, like I don't know, housing, food crises, stuff like that, and people didn't really know how to deal with it all the time. They were kind of figuring things out on their own, and this is stuff that I guess I never really had a choice. I kind of had to deal with this very early on in life, and so being able to share this is very helpful. So I did catch wind of several people, and it was some of them were really kind of wholesome, right? It was almost like sometimes they're just little kids, and kids are curious, but that's one of the great things about kids, right? It's like even when they're really young, we were all kids at one point, but I got caught wind of some kids who actually want to like, were talking about stuff that it's kind of cute and funny and adorable when you see like an 8-year-old talking about something that's kind of beyond what she really needs to worry about. But the fact that there's that curiosity and that creativity and that interest is something you want to see. And so long story short, here we're going to talk about some topics here that apparently start to become a discussed topic, partly as a result of the conversation that was generated from what we were talking about here a while back. And that's because I had a phone call and I had several conversations with a variety of people relating to real estate. And so we're going to talk about condos, townhouses, and regular houses as well. So over here, and people are also doing this, separate from this as well. Of course, everyone's also talking about housing for their own personal matters. Most of the things are not related to this project at all. Everyone's concerned about housing prices. Everyone's concerned about finding affordable housing because, particularly locally, the city I'm living in is not a cheap and affordable place to live anymore. It used to be, and that's one of the things that I even had a call on about with the mutual friend, was that not too long ago, and also with like my caseworker who also popped in from like a little like township that's further. It's not a town anymore. It's like a big city as well now at this point. I keep thinking these used to be like towns, but they're not towns anymore, right? Like they're cities now. They're full-blown cities, and they're fairly modernized as well. Ajax, Whitby, so on and so forth. Kitchener, Guelph, Waterloo, so on and so forth. Like they all are cities in and of themselves at this point. And so, but long story short, there was a point in time, maybe like 15 years ago, when you could say 15, 20, 30 years ago, when things, I remember, something like a townhouse, $150,000, $150K. And then maybe 10 years later, like 2001, it'd be like 2000, it'd be like 250. Again, you have to account for inflation and the adjustment of currency, but needless to say, it's not like now it's like 1.5 million, right, to 2 million. It's insane. It's insane, right? Like, things have changed a lot, but anyways, so let's just go read ahead. So that's the preamble, right? So this here's the tab on freehold townhouse meaning. So AI overview is just summarizing what I asked for. Freehold townhouse meaning. What does it mean? And that's one of the questions that was proposed to me from this mutual friend, was what is the difference between a freehold townhouse versus like townhouse with management, and what is the difference between a townhouse and versus condo with management, and so on and so forth, and also with a regular house. So this is compare and contrast, which kind of reminds me again, once like, when let's say you're back in like grade school, what are the things that you do in an English class? Is like that's skills that you're going to use for the rest of your life. Analyze, reflect, describe, explain, all that stuff, which again, I used to do really well on those kind of questions when I was like, really young in school. But it's because it's important, right? It's like, it's very important if you're going to, it's just good for you for life. It's good to be able to reflect, describe, explain, make proper decision making, problem solving skills, and so on and so forth, and communicate. So freehold townhouse means you can own both the townhouse unit and the land, and it sits outright, giving you full control and responsibility of the property's maintenance and upkeep, without condo fees or shared ownership of common areas. Here's a more detailed explanation. Full ownership with a freehold townhouse, you complete ownership of the property, including the land, unlike a condo townhouse where you can only own the interior of the unit and share the ownership of common areas. So there's like some benefits here, some main features, right? So no condo fees for a freehold. You won't have to pay monthly condo fees or be subject to condo board decisions, as you are solely responsible for all aspects of your property. And again, there are always links here and references all throughout. So for example, Nesto, Wainwright Law, Beth and Ryan Wheeler. So these are basically different firms, right, that will touch upon like real estate and property. Full control, you have complete freedom. And again, I consulted a variety of friends, and I have some friends in high places, I say, but some people who are working as management inside a board, some people who own condos themselves, and other people who are just, have had a vast array of experience. Again, no names mentioned, nothing like that, just throwing it out there, right? You have connections, I've got connections, everyone's got connections, and it always is, really helpful and nice to be able to just have these kind of conversations and share some knowledge between some of the friends that you have, and everyone's able to kind of like help each other through a certain situation, or at least you, not directly, but to give useful supplementary information so that you can make better informed voluntary decisions about pertain. In this case, it was like, for example, it's like the mutual friend was like looking about starting a family, you know, maybe a couple years down the road, you know, with his spouse, and thinking of like so and so number of kids, maybe 1, 2, or 3 kids. You know, what is the best decision for a property to purchase in this trying economic times, and so on and so forth. Right, there is an example right there, and so it's very useful, and it's very beneficial, and it's just also interesting. It's just nice to get to be able to talk about stuff like this with people you know. So maintenance responsibilities similar to detached homes. So semi-detached, that's something I actually used to live in. I've been to basically living in all different types of residences throughout my life. One of them used to be a semi-detached. Further down, a freehold townhouse, once again generated a type of residential property where the owner has complete ownership of the property, including the land it sits on. In contrast, a condo owner only owns the interior of the unit and shares ownership of the common condo areas with the condo owners. So freehold townhouse, guide to understanding property. What is the difference between this and this? Who owns the land? What does freehold title mean in blah? What is a freehold condo? And you go down here, you have Reddit threads here like real estate and Nesto and so on and so forth. Okay? That was a lot just for one tab because I had to do a bit of preamble. But let's move on to the next one. All right, so this one is just townhouses versus regular house, a comparison, right? So townhouses are multi-level homes sharing exterior walls with neighbors, often in rows, while regular houses are detached structures with full ownership and more privacy, but typically higher maintenance. And you can expect this as, you know, what's a regular home that you think of, right? You think of like the quote-unquote, you know, a couple of like decades ago, the American dream. What was that like? It's like a house with like 3 or 4 bedrooms, you know, 2 kitchens, 1 up and down, a front yard, a backyard, a garage, right? And obviously that's unsustainable over the long term. People didn't believe in that kind of stuff before then. They didn't really, they didn't believe, they were complacent. They didn't, you know, focus on it. Out of sight, out of mind. That is the term that we used when I was in like, just before I graduated. I took a course in environmental resource management, and one of the core themes that we used to talk about in terms of, aside from like big corporate culture and how detached like higher upper up like CEOs and stuff like that are detached from they're so out of touch from the everyday basic daily needs and necessities of like middle income and lower income people, but they're so far detached from it that they don't feel the side effects and the consequences of the decisions that they make. They can approve a certain form or policy or whatever, or business decision, and it can impact tens of thousands of people's lives. And they won't feel a single thing. And you often find that they do ridicule and laugh and mock because they don't feel it, right? That's kind of like a class division, right? Although I don't want to talk too much about that because that easily gets political. I'm not going to cover that because that could be a whole separate topic on its own. It gets very controversial. But that's one of the topics. And another topic we talk about was also consumer behavior. So out of sight, out of mind. And you think of like the American dream and like, you know, like for like 30, 40, 50 years, like between like the 60s all the way through to the 90s, of having like, you know, husband and wife, 2 kids, full house, a car, front yard, backyard, going to middle school, high school, like blah. Like that is very stereotypical, very, very stereotypical. And it's very unsustainable in terms of like taking a look at the world as a whole and the amount of resources that we can actually accommodate for each person, right? One of the things there that was mentioned is, you know, when people don't feel the consequences, it doesn't matter if you're rich, even when you're like middle income, right? Like the American dream is just like a regular 4-household family. When people don't feel the consequences, they'd rather just not look at it. Out of sight, out of mind, and not concerned about it until the consequences come. But by that point, it's already too late. So again, conventional wisdom would be, right, better safe than sorry, but no one wants to hear that, right, until it's already too late. So that's something that is a prevailing theme as well. But over here, right, townhouses versus regular house, and that's kind of the topic that kind of came to mind here. So multi-level homes, exterior houses, higher maintenance, more privacy, full ownership. So a regular house, right, that's kind of the idea. But I don't think that's, let's be clear, I don't know if that's actually a sustainable thing to have. Needless to say, I'm not going to give my necessarily opinion on that. This is just something that we're going to talk about, discuss on this tab. So we're comparing townhouses with single family homes. And this is a question, again, that was posed to me from mutual friends. So space, privacy, cost, structure, ownership, maintenance, space, once again, just kind of comparing them. Individually owned, you may be part of a homeowners association. Maintenance, typically less exterior maintenance than single family. Space tend to be smaller, narrower than single family, limited outdoor space. Going further down, cost typically more expensive to purchase than houses, townhouses, whatever, full ownership of the property, including the land. Okay, I am not going to go through all of this, honestly. Integrity Homes, door logo, if you want, you guys can, if you're listening to this on the podcast or externally around the walls, you can just simply like Google this and you'll learn all of this on yourself in a variety of tabs. So yeah, I think it's pretty straightforward, right? You know what a regular house looks like. You also know what a general townhouse looks like, right? You're stuck back side to side with your neighbors, and it's still a house. It's not like a terrace building. It's not like an apartment. It's like a house, but it's like, side to side, and you can wall to wall. So less privacy there. Okay, next. Let's see if I have time for this. Okay, so I think we're going to end this episode with some things that are going back to a little bit of like finance and stuff. So the main topic is covered already, right? It's kind of like real estate. I didn't get to talk about condos, surprisingly, but that's okay. If it's not on the tab, I just won't talk about it. That's okay. That can be like a conversation for another, future episode or something like that. Okay. It's not really relevant here, so it's okay. So this pin can be easily guessed. GitHub.io. So what this is security and financial security. So hold on, give me a second here. I need to collect myself and ask myself why this was even here in the first place. Okay, so I just took a second to think about this. So I think the connection that was drawn here is I have 3 tabs open related to security, and what that online security specifically, I think what that is because I had invoices, pay stubs open, and I was curious, right, about like the level of security. So this tab here, this pin can be easily guessed on GitHub.io. So I was like learning a little bit about, not even learning, I was like reviewing some stuff, but there is some new information here about like brute force attacks, right? And that won't work anymore, hopefully, but I hope people have like stronger passwords nowadays. But passwords are a pretty outdated standard of security. You should also have like 2-factor authentication and various other forms of like recovery methods as well. But needless to say, user chosen passwords and pins, and of course you should know how to make a secure password as opposed to like ABC123 or QWERTY or something like that, right? So, or your birthday. Don't use personal information. Like, this is kind of obvious at this point, I would hope. So we conducted a user study, 6 5-digit pins. So this is basically an article that's evaluating the security of pins, like using personal identification numbers or PIN, like your bank pin, whatever. Participants over a period of 3 months to mimic the pin creation process in our browser-based study. Participants were restricted to mobile devices by checking the user agent string. We applied a 12 treatment between subjects study protocol for the pin selection criteria, e.g. 4 versus 6 digit with or without block listing. So they're comparing whether or not a 4 or 6 digit pin is more secure either way, if there is any difference. And later on, after the analysis and result, they will conclude that there isn't much of a difference. There isn't much of an increased security level. Okay, so I'm just going to leave it at that. I don't really want to cover this too much because it's not really directly related to finance or even, I mean, kind of is, right? I'm still like financial security, I suppose, but yeah, let's just kind of blow through it. It's kind of like a side topic, and I don't really want to invest too much on it because I just want to get rid of all this stuff I just want to get rid of Firefox, let's be clear. Another one. So this one has to do with privacy. Security, privacy, once again, would it be better, I was wondering, using Tor or the Tor browser or whatever, if you're doing banking. I don't think it does, but I just, curious, right? There's no harm in just asking a question. So just looking into the privacy of Tor. While the Tor browser offers enhanced privacy and encryption, it doesn't provide complete protection against malware on the dark web. Users remain vulnerable to online threats like phishing, malicious downloads, right? Here's a more detailed explanation. Tor's strengths: uses onion routing to quote-unquote onion routing to anonymize and encrypt your internet traffic, making it harder for further to track your online activity and location. Vulnerabilities: going further down, because there's onion routing protocols and data encryption, Tor browser offers a reasonably high level of privacy protection when used correctly. Of course, like any browser, is still vulnerable to an array of online attacks, blah-de-da, malware, phishing, blah-de-da, all that crap. Yeah, and further down, Kaspersky, again, one of the main, at the time wasn't main, it was just burgeoning. Kaspersky, ESET, what else is a small name that turned big? Bitdefender, a variety of different like anti-malware software companies in like late 2010s, like 2015, 2017, and now they're big corporate entities now because they've been fairly successful. Kaspersky is one of them, so you can like search up the article there. Is a Tor browser safe for dark web? Is it legal? Is it this? Does the ISP care? And of course Reddit here as well. Okay. Next is again security, privacy, and tracking. So this is your internet service provider. Let's say you have your service provider is like Telus or Bell or whatever your provider is. I don't know what your provider is. So can they track your information? Obviously they always do. ISP can see what you're using, even though they won't know which websites you visit. That's if you use a Tor browser. If you use a Tor browser, they can't see which website you're visiting, but they will know that you're using that browser. But I guess that's a little bit better than going on like your regular browser, and then they can see which webpage you're going all the time. But again, it's not a big deal. It's like, what do you have to hide? Unless you actually have something to hide. Why? Anyways, here's a more detailed explanation towards anonymity. Going further down, again, it's not really relevant to me at this point. I think I'm just going to close it. I'll just read the AI blurb here. So the AI summary: although your internet traffic is encrypted and routed through multiple layers on Tor, your ISP can still see that you're connected to Tor. That's fine, who cares? Plus, Tor cannot protect against tracking at the entry and exit nodes of its network, so anyone who owns and operates the entry node will see your real IP address, which is why, by the way, you're not supposed to use a browser to protect your IP. You're supposed to use a VPN, okay? Virtual private network. And I'm not going to run through all that because, again, it's not on the tab. So if it's not here, we're not going to discuss it. It's okay. And again, more like these like queries on the side here. People asking, am I totally anonymous if I use Tor? The obvious answer should be no. A guide to the dark web browser and stuff like that. Okay, that's it. Okay, so the last two things I'll cover here, and then we'll call it quits. It's really only one tab. So here is a page from Spotify. This is the project itself. And apparently I got a notification. We found some third-party content in your podcast. Please review each episode before the form closes. This is not at all related to like real estate or finance or security, but whatever. Otherwise, we'll assume you have a license. Again, long story short, they said they use a copyrighted music or whatever, and it's always something stupid that was like 3, 4, 5, 6 years ago when I had a couple old uploads. And it was like really low production, and I was like using some like non-copyrighted instrumental music just to add background on it. I still do that now, but like it's all modern, and it's nothing that's going to cause copyright issues. And it's needless to say, this tab here, because I had notification, and I think that's about it. So the only other tab I have here is the episodes, and I don't know if I need to show that even. Give me a second. Sure, why not? So this is just on Spotify, right? Various episodes. One on the 2023 fiscal report for grocery, 554 million in profit. One for Center Addiction Mental Health, performance release disclosure. One for Microsoft OneDrive, batch taxes, social services, job skills. One on nutrition, Usana, business and like dietary needs and supplementation. One on housing repair. It's just a variety of topics, right? Like just slice of life, right? Slice of real life. Okay, so that's it. This tab's open obviously because I need to upload episodes, but I'm going to close. I always close this. I never want to have Firefox open. So all right, that's it. So with that being said, thanks for tuning in. I'll see you guys in the next one, which will be where we deep diving once again back into a favorite topic of mine, which is medicine and healthcare and so on and so forth, and a bit of like the biochemist within ourselves. Okay, so I'll see you guys in the next one, and I hope this was like interesting, informative, like just something, or maybe just like talking, like the narration. I get a kind of bit of like an ASMR feel whenever I listen to my own stuff, because it is kind of like it's I have like ASMR music on the background, right? It's kind of like lo-fi. It's meant to be like de-stressing. It's meant to be therapeutic. It's meant to be like, you know, to kind of ground ourselves a little bit, because there's a lot of like stress in everyday life. So that being said, that's it. See you guys next one. Cheers.